What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Madhouse. And what a mad weekend we had. It really was. We had 8 events that we're going to look at that had more than 30 people. We had streams that we could watch all weekend from in the morning as soon as you woke up looking at overseas, and then we had the best of or the 3 deck format doing the world's format over at WCC. We had the Ink, like we had an event down in Spain, events everywhere. So shout out to all the stores that are putting it up, to putting in the time to make these events happen. It is wild. Now, we're going to look at this, and there's going to be some really interesting things that we're going to be able to pull from this meta report. So I hope you like it. I did a few more graphs than normal. If you're a numbers person or a graphs person, let me know if you like, the little bit of the extra work that I put into it. But we got some really cool insights. So I hope you enjoy it, and we're going to look at some lists, and it's going to be a great video. But before we get to the video, let me make myself a little bit smaller here, and I want to talk about the Safari Zone Collectibles 5K coming up. All right, June 14th. That's this Saturday over in Smyrna, Delaware. Amazing store. We had our 1K turn 3K last set. Everybody loved it. Great air conditioning, great restrooms, great food in the local area. Angel opened 10 cases at the start of the set and opened another 10 cases specifically to put out for this event. So if you need any cards, now's your time. You can come do this event. The store credit never expires. We can't give cash prizes because it's not allowed in Delaware, but the store credit, you can use it online. It doesn't expire. You can get all the cases you need for the future. Scan the QR code, sign up. All right. Melee says 128 person cap, but we can and are willing and more than happy to go up to 150 people to set up for that. And there's still plenty of room, even if we hit 150 people. Okay. So come on down. It's going to be an amazing, amazing event. I promise it's going to be so good. But let's jump into why you came here. And that's the week 2 meta report. And here is our first graph. Okay. This is our first graph. This is looking at the top 8s across 8 events with 30 people or more. You'll notice if you add it all up, the numbers are a little bit off because one of the events only had 2 decks in the top, or in the that were listed in the top 8. All right, that's all they had. They had 2 decks that were in top 4, and they split top 4. So that is why the numbers are off. But looking at this, it's pretty not. It's kind of what we expected, right? I'll say it right off the bat. It's kind of what we expected, except for this red blue. This red blue is wild. We had 11 red blue decks make it into top 8. And in the next graph, like I'll give you a sneak peek. We do break it down into what they are. But we had 11 red blues. And I think that's the biggest surprise factor looking at this week. Like this is not something we expected when we saw so much aggro going on. But one thing to keep in mind with red blue, it does reasonably well against Steel Song, or it does really well against Steel Song still. It still does well against Green Steel. So why would it not still do well? And I think that what happened is people realized that. And what we saw is EU just went off the rails with red blue like they normally do. EU is known for a lot of red blue and a lot of green purple. And that's what they had a lot of. They had a lot of green purple and a lot of red blue. And I'm curious, is that going to shift into stateside? Is that going to shift over to our events, maybe CCS? Because when we look at the European event, you'll notice that there were no amber steel in top 8. All right. It was because red blue probably kicked him out. And green purple is also really good against the aggro amber steel list. So the green purple probably beat up those aggro players. The red blue then beat up the green purple, and they were able to get there. So I think that's going to be something as well. We got down here, I do want to shout out the one Ruby Fossa player, red yellow. We're going to look at that deck in a little bit. Green blue. I should have pulled that deck. Oh, I messed up. I should have pulled that deck, but maybe I can post edit and throw it up. But we got 4 red purples, 4 purple steel, and I think these 2 numbers are going to go up. I really do. I think red purple is always, I think it has what it needs to do good or well against aggro, as well as having the shark plus the pirate's life to be able to go long if it needs to. But one thing to look at, well, really quick, I think purple steel is probably one of the best decks to combat Amber Steel. So I think this number is going to go up. But Blurple, we got Blurple here, blue purple, blue amethyst, sapphire amethyst. We've got 7. And I think this number will only continue to grow as well. I think that Blurple, it does well against aggro, and it does really well against red blue, and it does really well against red purple. So it has everything it needs, and it does well against green steel. If it can just get that ramp into that genie genie into the Elsa, it can take care of the Diablos, and then they can Hades the Shift Pete or whatever the Ursula, whatever they want. And green steel, they just have to see that super high roll every single game against Blurple to be able to get the win. So, and then Blurple can do fine against the Amber Steel aggro. It's not a great matchup, but it's not a bad matchup, especially as it slows down into this more Rhino Diggy Diggy Hole list versus the more hyper aggro list that I first started talking about at the beginning of the set. But that's top 8. Let's jump into the graphs really quick where we break it down. And first off, look at this. We have red blue APL, and I named it APL, a Pirate's Life, because we saw quite a few of them actually running the Lilos in their list. I saw 3 of them running 2 Lilos. So they're trying to throw that Lilo in because it's not hard to play develop into visions. Oh, look, here's a Lilo that can now quest for 2 and trade really well. And then we saw red blue items, 5 red blue items, which I found this really surprising because, again, if aggro is really popular, red blue items is a little bit slower. But if they can get that baby Sisu down into that shift Sisu and kind of just wreck everything, then why not? It's a good deck, right? I think it's more fun, in my opinion, to be versus playing both of them. I think red blue items is a little bit more fun, but really surprised. Either way, I mean, this number of red blue players really surprised me making top 8. Next up, though, we do got the green steel, and we had 8 green steel discards, and then the 1 green steel aggro player, representing that green steel aggro, making it into top 8. I do not have that list. We won't be looking at that one. But then we got green purple, and green purple having a healthy mixture of green purple discard and green purple tempo, more of that Artifacts version of green purple. And both decks just good in their own right, depending on the playstyle that you like. And they both do really well into different matchups. I think the green purple tempo is going to be better into more of the aggro Amber Steel route. But that green purple discard, if you can just discard their whole hand before they get going, why not? It can do really well against that green purple discard does well against green steel. Like, it has a lot of both of them have really good matchups into different lists, but both of them have a lot of those really big power cards, and I think we'll look at least one of each. Down here at Amber Steel, we've got Steel Song taking the big amount of top 8 finishes, and I think that would probably come to a surprise for a lot of people because Amber Steel aggro, Amber Steel Rhino aggro has just been so popular lately on Fight Club, the website, but now we have Steel Song taking over. We have 9 Steel Songs taking top 8. And then we have the 3 Amber Steel Rhinos, and then the 1 Amber Steel Diggy Diggy Hole. And this is just a aggro Diggy Diggy Hole with no Rhino in it. And again, I think Steel Song is I think it's perfectly fine into all of these matchups. Like, I do not feel like Steel Song has a bad matchup right now. I think there's some decks that it just completely blows out of the water, and then there's other decks that I think is just very 50-50. Whoever the better player is, I think is what's going to happen. And so I think Steel Song is just, if you've been playing it, if you've, watched a certain YouTuber that talks about it quite a bit, then I think this Steel Song is going to be a pretty safe way to go if you want to have a good matchup into really anything. A Whole New World, it's a pretty powerful card, okay? But then the Amber Steel Rhino 3, and we'll look at a couple of those. And then next up, we've got red purple, and we've got a mixture. We've got 2 red purple evasives and 2 red purple controls. And the way I went about this, one has that Maui half shark, a pirate's life, and one does not have those. And just running more of that tempo with the bounce package and the Tremaines and the ladies and things like that. So this is kind of the breakdown of the different archetypes of the different lists that we saw in the top 8. So next up on, we have the top 4 across 8 events. And this kind of, one thing to keep in mind is I want to look at this green steel discard. Green steel discard, 7 top 4s. And if you remember this, there were, let's see, 9 top 8s. Okay. So green steel discard with the best, going from that top 8 position to the top 4 position, green steel discard had the best leg at that. And then red blue, we've got 5, and then red blue 6. So another really good swing of things. Blurple, we've got 3, and over here Blurple is on 7. So like these decks, they're doing really well. That APL and that green steel discard doing really, really well. Now, meanwhile, if you look at Steel Song, though, Steel Song 2, right? 2 made top 4 out of, oh, too far, out of 9. Okay. And that's kind of popular, though. We see that in the past with Steel Song, how a lot of people represent, and then not a lot of people make it to those finals. And it happened here, right? So with the one Amber Steel Diggy Diggy Hole, the one that was in the top 8 made it to top 4. And then the Amber Steel Rhino, we had 3, and then 2 of them made it into the top 4. So you'll notice no purple steel. I think that might change, right? I think that Purple Steel still is in a good place, but it's a deck that's not super popular, so it never has a big representation. But I think that could possibly change. We got green purple tempo and green purple discard here, so 3 and 3. And when we saw here, we had 4 and 4, so a really good representation. But what's really interesting is the finals. Okay, so this is first and second, and when we look at this, we had 2 rhinos making top or getting first place, right? So big, right? We had 2 going in the top 4, 2 getting that first place. So out of 3 in the top 8. Blurple 1 and 1, so 1 in first and 1 in second. Green Steel discard, we had 2 in first and 3 in second. And then red blue items 1, and then Steel Song 1. All right, so that means that they fell off. They never made it into first and second. So we went from what did we go to? We went from 9 Steel Song down to 2 Steel Song, down to 1 Steel Song, making it to finals. So quite a big drop off. And then meanwhile over here, we've got Blurple in second, green purple tempo, and green purple discard. So this one's really big because no green purple in first place, but we've got 4 green purples making it into second out of 3, 6 out of 6. So pretty good turnaround. And then I think the big thing that stands out is green steel discard, 1 of them getting second place, and then 2 of them getting that first place out of 7 that made it into top 4. So not the best turnaround. But yeah, so these are kind of the graphs, and then these are the final numbers, or these are like the numbers that I pulled from. This is my more messy calculations that I had. Again, if you wanted this for whatever reason, I'll leave it up for a second. But I did want to point out again, this Enchanted, right? This I just find this really interesting, and it's just what you'd expect when they play a lot of red blue and they play a lot of red blue and green purple. That green purple beats up the aggro, the red blue beats up the green purple and the Steel Song, and you just see how that meta wheel kind of just turns. So is this something that we might see at CCS? Is CCS going to see how Ink had 30% representation of Amber Steel at their event? And hey, maybe it's time I break out my red blue. Maybe it's time I break out my green purple discard or green purple tempo to beat up all the aggro, because we just saw Rhino win some games. It's aggro, and why not? Maybe it's time. So I think CCS Safari Zone, I think, are going to be really interesting events. I think we're going to see some pretty wild things. But yeah, I think this meta report is really interesting. I really do. I think we're going to see, if we go back here, I think we're going to see a lot Blurple go up. I think we're going to see Purple Steel go up. And I think Amber Steel is going to be probably number one representation again. I really do. I think I said Amber Steel, but I think Amber Steel is just going to be a big representation. It really is. I'd love to see more green blue, but unfortunately, with so much steel, it's hard because Pete is like the ultimate counter to that green blue deck when it gets going. But I think I'm really excited for this weekend. But let's look at some decks. All right. So first up, we got the GTA Lorcana Series 1K. This is up in Toronto at Kalami Baby Games, a 41-person event. We have Dale taking first, and what a surprise, running some green steel. And what I like about this deck is we have we have the two Tinkerbells, which are great. I think the Tinkerbell is a really top-notch decision when you might be expecting some of that Amber Steel discard, because green steel or Tinkerbell is a great way to counter all of those Turnidogs, a great way to counter all of those light health characters that are only 2 health. So you can kind of just Tinkerbell into something and take it out. One thing to keep in mind though, if you do run Tinkerbell is an excellent, excellent, excellent way for Rhino to get some Rapunzel heal. So keep that in mind. Okay, if they do have a Rhino down, that Tinkerbell can't do anything to Rhino, and at least when she comes down. So that what needs to happen here is that you just need to understand that Tinkerbell can trade, or that Rhino can trade into you and get some good Rapunzel value there. So be aware of that. But we've got the one Chip. Chip is just a phenomenal card where I think we're going to keep seeing more of it. It's just a great 4-drop that comes down. It can trade with things, and your opponent discards a card. So you get a board. You can feed your Prince John. Like, I think it's a great card. The one of the Basil, however, I think it's Basil. It's Basil. It's Basil. So I just think the list is great. You're running Beyond the Horizon because the card is just amazing. All right. Shout out to Mark Miller, who we saw at the Southside Gaming event, run that Beyond the Horizon with 3 Prince Johns and draw 15 cards. 15, right? So, I mean, the card is great. Beyond the Horizon is a really awesome card. If you pair it with that Prince John, you're going to do crazy things. And so I think you just run it because it's so good. It will win games on its own if you have the right setup for it. And I think that's what people are figuring out, is how to set it up well. And that's the tricky thing about that card. But just a great list from a person who's been playing green steel as long as I've known of the name, right? Since I started playing in Ursula's Return and piloting it to another first place finish. So next up on our list, we've got Joseph Quigley. I think it's Quigley. I'm pretty sure it's Quigley. I think that's how you say it. But taking second place and running Blurple, right? This has been a big one for him lately. He's really enjoyed Blurple. He made a guide last set, I think it was. But, we're on the 3 Monstros, just a really good card against a lot of different decks. It can clear an entire green steel board. If Amber Steel wheels or a whole new world into you and you have enough ink, you now have 7 cards. So you play Monstro, or you draw 1 to go to 8. You play Monstro to go to 7, and then you can just clear their entire board with that Monstro. And you probably don't even, and even if you empty your hand, down to 0 to clear their whole board, your top decks are just phenomenal. And your top decks are probably going to be better than Amber Steel's anyways. So running those Monstros, I think this number might go down to 2. I think 2 is a safer number for Monstro right now. But I think that even at, you're fine with 3. You're running the 2 manners, incredibly difficult for green steel to deal with, and I'm sure Joseph knew that he'd be running into a lot of those green steel. I mean, they had 3 green steels in top 8 at this event, so I think that those manners probably put in some good work for him. The Peter Pan's another decision, basically I'm probably going to see a lot of green steel. I'm probably going to see a lot of Diablo. And then Peter Pan also just good into all this aggro stuff right now. So this deck is, ready to face aggro. This is what's happening. We've got the Broom plus the Tipo plus the Bell, all characters that can come down early. And then you have the Fox and the Crab that can come down on any of those characters to help you clear the aggro cards out, plus the Peter Pan with Rush to give that Iago Rush or the Genie Rush. And so a deck that is ready to take on aggro, but it has the late game threats to be able to take on those slower decks that may pop up. Huge shout out good job, Joseph. Ready to take on the meta that, well, you probably had. So next up, we have the Reign of Jafar case tournament at House of Cards. Just a 37-person event. And for this one, we got split for top four. All right. This is the one that only 2 decks were available on Inkdecks, and they split top 4 for that case. So each person probably taking a box, I would assume. And we've got Bruce with a green purple tempo list. And I'd say this is more aggro. I probably should have named this aggro. I think if you see Flynn's and Merfolks, that's probably aggro. But forgive me, forgive me. But we just have a fast list. That's what's going on here. And we've seen this quite a bit this weekend. I think we saw this quite a bit this weekend because you have this ability to go really fast, curse Merfolk into Flynn Rider and making them discard a lot of cards. Doing so, I think one list that we saw this weekend similar to this was running a package like this, but also running the 3/1 character that when she's challenged, your opponent discards a card, as well as the Prince John. So lots of discard and aggro there, but also being able to refill your hand in a way that aggro decks normally cannot. But we have this 2/1 Diablo here, and just coming in, we have the one Pegasus just being evasive, the Go-Go that we saw. Shout out to Royce, right? He had that huge win against Red Blue, top decking the Go-Go to gain 1 lore off of that, off of the Scar. All right. So in hindsight, always heal your Scar if you have a popsicle, right? For all the Red Blue players out there. But the list is just great. I think you have that heavy aggro start. You have some control and draw with the pull the lever and the wrong lever. The Peter Pan to feed the Genie for some aggro or to take out some aggro decks. The reach with the Merlin and the interruption, right? Disruption with the Ursula Deceiver and the Cloud Kickers. So green purple, just a really good tempo or aggro deck right now with the reach that you need, the draw power you need. I think the levers were just a great addition to green purple to make it a strong and competitive deck that can be competitive really all set, I think. So really shout out to Bruce, way to go. The next top 4 was Corey with some Steel Song. And this Steel Song, I think you're going to see a lot of this throughout the next few weeks, I think. But a lot of people are just really high on Rhino, and for good reason. Rhino's a hard character to get rid of. That 4/3 resist +2 is difficult. Because of it, we're seeing a lot of red purple fling damage, right? Shout out to the Goodest Boy and the 20 lore who's trying to make that deck really popular, because you can fling that damage onto things like Rhino, Calhoun, and to really just kind of ignore that resist. But looking at this list, you just have a lot of good cards in it. That's all there is to it. You have the Rhino package, the Cindy and Let the Storm Rage On package, the 4 Troubadours. It's just a strong list, and the Biancas that come down on 4 the majority of the time. So it's just doing the things that you want Steel Song to do. I think Ariel, if you're going to run a big shift card right now, I think Ariel is the right move because it's really good into aggro and it's really good into the mirror. So things that you're going to want. So I think if you're trying to decide between Cindy and Ariel, probably Ariel. But when you look at this, where there's 2 bare necessities, Cindy's going to do a lot of work because they can't get rid of that big Cindy very easily. But I think traditional Steel Song, as always, is in a good place. You just have to be a good pilot. Steel Song isn't... there are games where it's going to high roll for you, but those are getting lesser and lesser and lesser. And unless you see the ultimate high roll, it's just not going to do it anymore. So I think Steel Song's in a great place, but I don't think it's a deck that you can just pick up and just go out and win. I think the ceiling is getting a little bit higher, but I think it's in a good place where it can, like I said earlier, it can take on a lot of the meta. And we'll see. I'm interested to see if Rhino continues to stick around in this list that does have a weakness of not being able to refill your hand with Whole New World. But when it can control the board so well, quest so well, it's hard to remove. It's a lot of things that you want in Steel Song. So we'll see. But shout out to Corey. Really good job and congratulations on that box. Next up, we've got the Norway Open, the biggest event to happen in Norway so far at TCG. There you go. All right. So shout out to Norway for this event happening. Spessy live stream this event. So if you want to see it, it might be up on his YouTube. I'd check it out. But first place, we have this great individual, this great gentleman who was a pleasure to watch on the live stream. And game one was awesome. If you can go back and watch it, definitely do. He essentially top decked a goat, right? He needed a crab to win, top decked the crab to get that win in the first game. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It was like watching Red Purple or Royce draw that go go. But looking at the list, we've got red blue items, okay? And watching them pilot it, and I don't know, every time I watch red blue items, I got to admit I'm a little impressed. And I know we call it solitaire, but it's just I don't know. Things can go from I'm in a great place to what has happened so quick. They get that second workshop down. All of a sudden, they now have 3 Scrooges on the board that they played for free, and they've drawn 19 cards. And you just wonder, how did this happen so quickly? And that's what happened a lot of the games, and where this individual, we'll say old, but he would get down to 1 or 2 cards, and then Spessy would be right there with the discard, but it just not quite enough discard, and then he would just draw the game away, and then he would be able to control the board with the Medusa, with the brawls, with these Sisus and the big Sisus, and then the Scrooge McDucks with the Vitalis Spheres. It would just get so nasty so quickly. And then he has the 2 Great Stone Dragons to help with all the discard, because he can play that. And then now these Tipos, these Sisus, these Talas, now they're just turning into ink. And so that Great Stone Dragon being a good heads up play for discard as well. So really good showing and really good piloting of red blue items. And next up, we do have Spessy's list. He's running that green purple discard, and the is what we expect: the Hypnotize, the Levers, the Sudden Chill, opting to run a lot of birds, right? A lot of birds. We got 4, 8, 12, 16, 18 birds going in here. And I got to admit, they look cool. You're almost guaranteeing that Diablo shift. We're running the 4 chips. Again, just a great card. So the deck or the list, it's clean. You're going to draw the cards you want the majority of the time. Spessy really needed to see those Ursulas, and he just couldn't seem to find them a lot of the time. But you're still running the crabs and the foxes to help you against the aggro decks that are going to be so good. When you're running all of these birds, you have lots of targets for all of that. So good list. I like the list. I think it's great. I think that he took top seed. He was number 1 seed going into finals, and just that last game where they top decked that crab. Otherwise, I think Spessy would have had that first place, but it was great. They went to 3 games, and definitely give it a shot. Go check it out. All right. But good list, and congratulations on second place. Next up, we've got this 25K. It's a 49-person 25K. I believe this was down in Spain. All right. And so looking at this, we've got Green Steel taking first place. Shout out to Gilberto. I think it's Gilberto. We'll go with that. Shout out, man, taking that first place finish. And this list is really reminiscent of what we saw at the Southside Gaming events. And I think it might be the same list. We've got the 3 Prince Johns, 3 Petes, the 4 of the Beast, with the 2 Beyond the Horizons. But why change a good thing? I think sometimes we're so eager to, I can make this deck better, but yet what ends up happening is we make changes that we just didn't have to change, and it leads us to a worse performance sometimes. So why, if the wheel ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. And that's what happened here. Is the deck did really well at Southside Gaming, so he's like, I'm going to run it. And it might not be exactly the same. Maybe there are a couple things different, but congratulations. I think Green Steel, well, it's in a great place. The numbers showed us. The numbers at the beginning, looking at the graphs, showed us that Green Steel discard is a force to be reckoned with, especially with things like Beyond the Horizon, where you can't abuse your hand very much. So good job, man. Next up on our list, we've got Jonas. Jonas taking second place with this red purple list, and this is that red purple. We've got the red purple evasives, right? Running the Maui Half Shark and the APL, the A Pirate's Life. But we've got some other things going on here. And we've got the Palace Guard. He's the 1/4 Vanish. So a really good target for the Merlin Crab if you need that. We've got lots of draw. We've got the 3/1 Vanellope with evasive, so can just be really annoying for green purple to deal with. So I'm sure that put in some work on top of Peter Pan. So really teched out for those green steals. Unfortunately, just not able to, really bring it in here. But one of the issues with something like Vanellope is Vanellope can't do anything against Let the Storm Rage on. So something to think about. Also, feed Palace Guard feeds that as well. But the rest of it, it's doing what the deck wants to do. You're running two of the new Hades to draw an infinite amount of cards. But again, what do you do when there's something like Beyond the Horizons? And that's where it can get a little dangerous, but it's still a 3/6 that quests for two. And I think that just you're going to need cards like Hades to be able to win some of those more grindy matchups. But we are on the three Queen's Castles. Again, good into green steel. So really good list. The hypnotic strengths mostly, I think, to deal with opponents' Iagos, right? If you're running into Blurple or the Mirror or green purple that runs Iago, that hypnotic strength, it's a 2-cost, easy answer. Takes that character right out with no issues whatsoever. So great list. Again, I think red purple, they're gonna be just fine. I really think red purple is gonna be just fine, as they always are. Next up, we've got the Ink 10 case. What happened here? We've got the Ink 10 case. It's a 41-person event. Shout out to Matt Dixon and Matthew Hash. And this one was streamed by Garrick. So go to his channel, check out the stream there if you want to rewatch any of the events or any of the matches. But taking first place, we had Kurt Spice, our world's qualifier. And Kurt just running this diggy diggy hole deck that running the rhinos because why not, right? We knew that last set, and then this is something I talked about in my last video, that Diggy Diggy Hole was really good into green purple. Diggy Diggy Hole did fine into green steel, and it did well into everything. So what happens is when we see green steel do really well, we know that green purple is going to do really well. So why not break out things like Happy? Why not break out things like Seven Dwarfs Mine that do really well into green purple? And that's what we saw. We saw Kurt just do really well into those decks. And he went really heavy into what he expected to be a lot of Amber Steel aggro. And he was right. So we see the 4 Calhouns here just beating the crap out of the Amber Steel aggro decks. We see the 4 Rhinos doing the same thing, being good into traditional and so many other matches. And then the Mine package. We got 4 Docks, 3 Happies, 4 Seven Dwarfs Mine. So just a good list. Shout out to DeCandio, right? Getting Diggy Diggy Hole off the ground and then just bringing it back because it's good. We see the 2 Rapunzel's Towers. Really big fan of this card. I love it. It is matches that you just don't win without it. Sets up great Rapunzel value. I mean, just the deck's great. Like if you need a deck, then this is a good one to go. It doesn't have really bad matchups. When you have something like Seven Dwarfs Mine that can pop and do a lot of damage to things, it's not as aggro as it's not hyper aggro by any stretch of the imagination. It is a more, do you call it a tempo aggro? Is that a thing? Regular aggro? But the list is good. That's all I can say. It's really good. I think if you're going somewhere now that we've seen it win, maybe you won't need 4 Calhouns. Maybe 4 Calhouns is a little much because she's going to be a little bit slower into a lot of other decks. And if we see things like Madame Medusa get more popular, then they can just send Calhoun back to your hand, and now you're stuck on uninkable. You don't want Calhoun against red blue. So if we see red blue get really popular, then maybe Calhoun's not as good. Maybe you want back that Daisy or some 2-quester, or Daisy, a 2-quester, right? But I think the deck is great. I really do. It's a lot of fun. It's something I was really happy to see because it was really close to my list, and so I was happy to see that I was on the right track as someone that's as accomplished as Kurt Spice. So really great showing, and it was awesome to watch. The finals against green purple, you'll see why things like Happy and Seven Dwarfs Mine are so powerful, why the deck is so powerful into green purple. And then next up, speaking of that, second place, Colpos, probably saying that wrong, taking second with this green purple tempo list, and this is a cool list. Like, I really like this list. I think it's a lot of fun. We see the Lyle Tiberius coming back. That Lyle, of course, giving reckless to an opponent's character, and then whenever one of your characters is banished, each opponent loses one lore. So that can be really effective against aggro, right? Because you give them reckless, so they have to trade it into something. So if you go something like this Louis here, Louis a 4/3 3 that comes down exerted, and then your opponent's character, when you play this character, choose opposing character, and they gain reckless. All right, so now you have this 4/3 that comes down exerted. So maybe you go Lyle on 3, and then on turn 4 you go Louis, and so now you can give, something reckless that last turn so they can't quest. Then you go Louis, they can't quest again, and now they have to trade into something. So if you give it to a 2-drop that can't sing anyways, what are they gonna do, right? So really good against aggro. One thing that happened, you didn't see that either one of these really come down a lot in the finals, just not enough time. But you had the disruption of Ursula and the Cloud Kicker. You have this Ursula coming in for the steel, good against Steel Song, good against Green Steel, the Cricky to take out even more aggro decks, also to take out Chernobogs. Mother knows best to get rid of those pesky, Maui half sharks. You've got this, they never come back. The 3-drop. Let's see what we got here. Up to 2 chosen characters can't ready at the start of their next turn. Draw a card. So again, another great card against aggro. You get to draw a card. Good against aggro, good against Amber Steel traditional, good against a lot of different things, where if you just want to be able to take them out, now you can, or if you just want to ignore them so you can quest, now you can do that. So a lot of good options here. You could set it up and go, they never come back, setting up Cricky for the next turn because they're not going to be readied yet. So now you play that Cricky, you can take those targets out. You can set up the Go-Go to Mago, whatever you need to do. So I think this deck is just, I think this is a really good green purple deck. I really like it. I really like these reckless, right? That ability to just stop aggro that way. I think the deck is top notch. I think if maybe Kolpos would have seen these Lyles or seen more of these Louis, I mean, he only runs 2 and he saw 1, but I think maybe it could have been a slightly different match, maybe. And Kurt saw like every dock, so there was that too. I want Kurt's dock luck. There's something going on there, but so I think this is a great list though. I really like this one. So if you're a green purple tempo connoisseur, I think this is a good way to go. Maybe tweak the numbers to how you like it. I don't know. Cool list though. But next up, we've got Matthew taking top 8 there, and I wanted to shout out this because it was the only Ruby Fossa to make top 8. So he's also kind of localish to us over in my neck of the woods. I've never gotten to play him, but I've seen him quite a few times, and he's been on Ruby Fossa for a really long time, right? And he likes the deck, he likes the colors, and yeah, he joined the Discord, so we're happy to have him because we've been doing a lot of Ruby Fossa cooking over there. But looking at the list, he's already made a couple changes, things that, he thought would do better in the future. I believe he said he was going to cut the Reyes to add something else. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. Oh, he wanted to add Maui half sharks. One thing he said he really missed was having those evasive answers, and that Maui half shark just being a good one. Having all of that attack and all of that health, it's just hard to deal with. So it also comes down early. You get that down on turn 4 to answer genies and other things, and then maybe it does bring back an invited to the ball, or maybe you need a teeth and ambitions and it brings that back. But even if it doesn't, you're not too worried about it. You really just want to have those answers for the evasive characters. He said Prince John was an awesome MVP, just questing for 2 or taking out an opponent's character. But yeah, so huge shout out. I know he made a free Ruby Fossa guide last set. I'll see if I can get that for him, and I'll throw it in the Discord, or sorry, in the description if you guys want to see that as well. Also, my Discord will be in the description if you guys want to see that as well. So really good though. I loved seeing Ruby Fossa come back at a 128 person event. Ruby Fossa making top 8 is awesome. So congratulations, man. Next up, we do have my buddy David. He's a local to the Ink event. Hopefully coming down to the Safari Zone. I believe he said he was, but he's running red purple, and this is the red purple that I think can just do a number on the Amber Steel aggro list. When you have these great cards for the Fox and the Crab, when you have Queen of Hearts, and then Madame Medusa that can come down, that Madame Medusa coming down, dealing 2 damage to something, and also returning a character with cost 2 or less to your opponent's hand. So now you can deal 2 damage to your Queen of Hearts. Your Queen of Hearts removes almost anything, and then you also bounce a character back to your opponent's hand. So if you have Chernobog's down, then Queen of Hearts, then Madame Medusa, they can remove a Rhino while you also potentially bounce something. So if your opponent goes Rhino, and then turn 3 goes Lady plus Piglet, now Madame Medusa comes down. Queen of Hearts and Chernobog's followers removes. Yeah, Queen of Hearts and Chernobog's followers removes the Rhino. Madame Medusa bounces the Piglet, and you have a 3/3 down. So that Madame Medusa takes out the lady when it quests, and maybe you bounce it for the Fox. Lots of opportunity, right? And I think this deck is a really big weakness of Amber Steel aggro. I think it can do really well against it. I'd be curious. I should have asked what you lost to. I am curious because the list has a lot of power. This Ursula plus Ursula Shift being good into green steel and traditional. This Hades helping you get that draw power, and then of course you have the Lady Tremaines. I could see a more grindy matchup being the weakness of this deck. It's so focused on aggro, which I think that's what red purple has to figure out, is how can they do both? How can they win the aggro match but also win the grindy matchup that they're so well known for? And that's going to be the difficult part. And maybe it is locations. Maybe they have to fit that in somehow. You have the Finders Keepers, lots of draw. So lots and lots of draw. So maybe with so much draw, you're trying to bring back, maybe you need the snakes back. Maybe two Ursula and two Ursula here, or something along those lines, so you can get snakes back so you can bounce those Lady Tremaines. I don't know, something close to Ed's deck, but I don't know. I think this is the right direction of red purple to be able to beat the aggro, to beat the grind. I just a little bit more tinkering. Like I said, I think red purple is not going anywhere anytime soon. So next up, we've got my buddy, I Am Legend, part of the Mad Hatters Discord. He got bit by the bubble, unfortunately, but also running a Ruby Fossa list. So close to having 2 Ruby Fossas in top 8. Don't know the last time it happened, and it's awesome. I love it. I think it's slightly different. We're running the Mini Mouses, which I think are phenomenal. I love this Mini Mouse because that card, it's a 0/8 and on turn 4. And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with a 0/8 Mini Mouse? It's wild. And then you have this Goofy, so that Goofy coming down to heal, some of your characters, things like that. You have Goofy here to gain 2 lore. I think the deck is great. You have the evasive answer here with the Vanellope, but also you're running these Darling Deers, so you have the option to just go really fast. This Darling Deer helping close out games along with Goofy, and then this Goofy, he's really cool. I questioned this, and then I played the deck, and I really enjoyed this Goofy. Whenever this character challenges another character, your other characters get +1 lore this turn. So imagine that. Imagine they play Goofy, and you have like 2 or 3 characters down. You challenge into something with this 7/6 evasive Goofy, and then all of your 2 or 3 characters get +1 lore, and then you play a Windy Darling also to give something +2 lore. And that's a lot. That is a lot of power. That is a lot of lore coming in. So I'll be interested. I Am Legend, another player, that is doing a lot of, cooking with Ruby Fossa, Christian GT in the Discord as well. And then now, of course, wonderful Matthew doing a lot of cooking in there as well. Mad Hatter Discord, it's turning into the place to be, I promise. All right, link in the description. But moving on, we have the Enchanted Showdown 94 person event. Franza Gaming and Lucky Dimers. And taking first place, we have Luca. And Luca did title his deck list JDRR Blurple, I think is the, or JDRR deck, something along those lines. So he wanted to make sure that JDRR got the shout out. He so rightfully deserves, being, kind of that grandfather of Blurple. And looking at it, it's just a clean list. Look at those fours, right? Look at all those fours. This is consistency is what's going on here. You're running the 4 Monstros. Again, we talked about it earlier with Joseph's list, where that Monstro is so good into green steel. I mean, it's a 6/8. That is hard to deal with. That is really hard to deal with when it can also just clear your entire board. And good night, right? So the bells, the foxes, the genies, like the Agos, it's all just good. It's good for the grind. The deck does fine into aggro as well. I think we've talked about it. I think Blurple is going to be a force to be reckoned with later on. And I do want to mention no Into the Unknowns, right? 2 lists that we saw take second and first, no Into the Unknown. Anyways, shout out Luca. Good job. Really happy for you. And yeah, it's an awesome list. Next up, we've got Jonathan, a member of the Flower Farm, taking second place with green purple. And looking at this, it is, you can call it, I think it's green purple discard. I think if you're running Setting Chill, we'll just call it discard at this point, because if you're running Prince John, it's discard. I think you have to, but we're on a lot of birds, 16 birds, because they're all good, right? They're all great. This hand knowledge from Diablo is just stupid good on turn 1. Draw here, challenging here, being able to beat up on the aggro decks, the Ursula for disruption, the Peter Pan helping fuel the rush for Genie and Iago, while also being able to take out the opponent's Diablo, but also just being an evasive that Quest for One is perfectly fine. It helps into traditional Steel Song because, maybe I forget that they run Peter Pan now and I quest my Cindy. And now you challenge into it with this Peter Pan and it's all ruined, right? So just a good list. And, Jonathan's a great player, really, really, really great player. So no surprise, this green purple discard tempo list just doing a lot of work. And that's why we saw so many do so well this weekend. So many second place finishes, not quite able to take it. And I find that interesting. They had so many second places, but no first places. So really interesting there. But the list just, again, solid. It's clean. It's a clean list, mostly 4 ofs. I think it's good. I think green purple is here to stay for a little while. Next up, though, we have Top Choice Gaming putting on the Return of Jafar quad case 52-person event. Taking first place, we got Jonathan. Jonathan with this traditional Steel Song, but he is running the 4-2 split. That's 4 of Whole New World and the 2 of the Beyond Horizon. And personally, I think if you're going to run Amber Steel and run Beyond the Horizon, I think a 4-2 split is the way to do it. I think Amber Steel thrives on being able to draw all these cards and set up these singers and then draw with the Whole New World and refill their hand and do all these nasty things. So I think Whole New World is just, it has to be run. And then the Beyond Horizon with those 2 ofs is I think is a great, because if you set up the board, right, you're a little patient, you set up the board, maybe you're not your first Whole New World, but your second Whole New World, you have the singers, and then now you just drain their hand down to 2, because why not? It's pretty good. So on the songs, we are running the one Grab Your Swords, and I'll admit, I hate to admit it, and I hate to say it, but I've even included a Grab Your Swords in my list. And just because it's actually been pretty good this set. There's a lot of aggro. I could see myself removing it as time goes on, especially as we see more of this diggy hole rhino stuff, but it's been pretty good in testing so far. So I could see why Jonathan ran it. And then meanwhile, we're on the Biancas, the one aerial, like what we saw earlier. One thing I will say, Beyond the Horizon, I'd like to see more Singer 4s in the form of Ursulas and Troubadours, but when you do have Rhinos in here, that can kind of fill that role a little bit as well. So that kind of works out there. But yeah, it's a great list. We see the three Naveens like the last list as well. We're seeing World's Greatest Criminal Mind instead of Bare Necessities here. And I think World's Greatest Criminal Mind, what are you more afraid of, right? Do you want to be able to deal with the Shift Pete, or do you want to try and just dig things out of their hand before you get there? And that's mostly the big question. I think those two cards, World's Greatest Criminal Mind answers the Shift Pete, and meanwhile, Bare Necessities can has a little bit more use into a lot more decks right now. So what are you more worried about? I think is the big question here. So next up we got second place and we got Donald on this green steel discard, and really reminiscent of Dale's list actually at the beginning. Slight differences, but we do have the Louis coming in to help with those aggro decks if you want that help, to help with the green purple tempo stuff. So that's really good. Maybe you just want to turn something sideways to give, it has to have reckless. It challenges just fine into Louis. You could give it to a beast, right? Your opponent's beast in the mirror. And then now they have to challenge in if they don't have a song, and now they lose that draw power. So that's pretty good. So the two Beyond Horizons, perfectly great. Three Prince Johns, upping the muses to three again, really good into aggro. Like that's just the fact of the matter. If you get a muses down against aggro, there's a good chance you just win. If you live that long enough to get there. Same with Ursula, right? If you get that Ursula down, you might just actually win at that point. We are down to one Hypnotize, and I kind of like the two number a little bit more for Hypnotize, because off of Prince John, you're drawing two cards. That feels pretty good, and they're losing one. But great list. I love it. It's doing what Green Steel wants to do. So I don't love it, right? I don't love anything about Green Steel, but the deck is good, right? The deck is really, really good. So shout out Donald. So, ladies, oh no, we still have one more. We're 50 minutes in. Let's knock this out. All right. We got Lorcana 5K put on by Through the Decades, 113 person event. First place, we got BS Chat with some Amber Steel Rhino. No diggy diggy hole in this one. Okay. He is just going lots of aggro here. He's got the Rhino package. He's got the Penny package. I love Penny. I've talked about her a lot. I think she's a phenomenal card, letting Smees trade really well. If we see a lot of Kurt's deck get really popular, then that Penny into Smee can just really, that's going to win you games in a way you might not expect. And then of course that Pluto coming in here. Pluto, I'm not as high on. I think I'd rather see something like Sven, but I've heard really good things from people that have used Pluto, and it worked out really well for BS Chat. He's a 5/5, and even if they deal one damage to him, you majority of the time you're sending two characters into him, and one will live most likely, but you're still sending two characters. Great target for Rapunzel. Like, the list is good. It's aggro that you want, but you still have the on the draw package with something like Rhino, but you still, and then the Smee Penny package, the Pluto coming in. It's a good list. So if you want more aggro, but not if you want more aggro without the hyper aggro aspect of it, I think this is a list, a really good in between of the hyper aggro version that I featured in my first video versus the more of the Lady and Rhino list that has the Calhouns and the diggy diggy holes and things like that. I think this is a good way to go, because you could still win on turn 5 with this list perfectly fine. Lots of 2 drops to draw, lots of great 1 drops to draw. Good list. So really good job, man. Next up, we've got Chad, another green purple second place finish, green purple discard. And this one, not as many, only 3 rows here, right? So we've got of course the 16 birds, only 2 foxes and 2 crabs. So a little bit weaker into the aggro matchups, but if you get these down, if you start with the Diablo and then you get these down, then you go Peter Pan into Iago, you're going to be perfectly fine into those aggro matchups. We've got the lever package, the discard package, the draw. Again, has all the things that you want. Okay. It has all the things that you want in a deck that's just going to be fit. It's going to do well into a whole lot of different things when you have so many different tools at your disposal. Do you want to draw 2 cards? Do you want to make your opponent discard a card? And if you have a Prince John down, you draw 1 card. So which do you prefer? So a lot of different lines. Green purple, of course, a more difficult deck. It always has been, and it has a higher ceiling. But it has a lot of outs as well. So really good job, Chad, on that second place finish. And then next up, we have another Flower Farm member. We have a Wilp. I'll say it that way. That's probably wrong too. And let me know, man. But running Blurple, and you'll see a couple spicy things with this list. You see the Kitas up there, right? The Kita ward and letting you ink a card and also gain some knowledge about what the next card is on the top of your deck. So choosing that, setting that up, adding a little bit more control to how your game is going to go. Really big fan of that Kita. A good against green steel because now maybe you don't have to ink as much, kind of like a Great Stone Dragon. Good against Amber Steel, helping you ramp. It's a 3/3, so it trades well into things like Smee and so on and so forth. And then we have the Ana, though. The Ana is a newer card in the Blurple arsenal. This Ana coming down with support, questing for 2, but also when you have an Elsa down, she draws a card. So a lot of the time, you're going to be playing something like a Genie or a Kita on that turn 3, and then turn 4, you play the Elsa, so you can take out your opponent's Genie or something else. And then now you can play the Ana. So now Ana lets you draw a card as well. Or against red blue, for example, you get your cards down, you're questing, you're doing your thing, all life is fine, right? You play an Ana on your turn 5 because why not? She quests for 2. It's a great card. Your opponent feels safe. They play that Maui Half Shark. Now you play Elsa. So Elsa now lets you exert the Maui Half Shark. Ana quests for 2 and gives support to Elsa. Elsa becomes a 3/5 that can trade and take out the Maui Half Shark. And then now Red Blue's sitting there like, huh, I really needed that card to live, and then they lose. Right? What a wonderful world. So and then Ana, pretty good card, right? It's a pretty good card. That's 6 health, questing for 2, support. Pretty good. And then finally, we've got the one Radigan. That's 6/7/4 with a ward. Make sure you ink, right? A lot of players forgetting to ink, and then that Radigan's just bye-bye. Bye-bye, right? So shout out to the Mufasa movie. Really like that movie. I don't know. Did you? Let me know in the comments. But Radigan, just surprising people. A 6/7 with ward is really difficult to deal with. Unless you B prep, Lady Tremaine, maybe you're not getting rid of that Radigan, and it's gaining that 4 lore, and that's a lot. That is a lot of lore to come down. So shout out to that Radigan, and just really good job. I think the list is great. I do. I think it has a lot of good matchups, and again, Blurple, I think we're going to see a lot of it. So, and he came in third. I forgot to change that. A Wilp, a Willop. He came in third place, not second place. Our second place finisher was Chad. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all of them. Okay. Yeah. 56-minute video, 57. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, great breakdown. Let me know, do you guys like the graphs? Okay, please let me know if you guys like the graphs, and I'll continue to do those for the meta breakdowns. But overall, I think the meta is CCS is going to be interesting. So I think how things develop going to be really interesting. Okay, I think that we're in for a good time. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. But remember, nothing matters more but staying happy and healthy. And I'll see you around. All right, until next time.